Oh, good morning, everybody. How you doing? We got November the 4th, 2025. Tuesday is election day. For many people in New York City, they're going to have the mayoral race there. A lot of people watching that. We'll see if Mamdani can pull it off against Cuomo. Of course, there's a third candidate. Sliwa, S-L-I-W-A, the founder of the Guardian Angels there in New York City. So I think he's the far right. Cuomo's the centrist, more centrist Democrat, and Mamdani's the Democratic Socialist. Hey, yes, ASMR. Good morning there, Krista. How you doing there? Eminem, how you doing? Yeah, thanks for tuning in here. So I'm going to head a little further west than I usually head in the morning. In Lincoln Park, we'll head over to Halstead. We'll check out commercial strip on Halstead, and then we'll probably head down Clybourne. We might go by the casino site there on the North Branch Chicago River, just see how it's looking. And then we'll head on into work. Nothing big here. Other news, again, welcome to Chicago. We're on Cleveland Street, just south of Fullerton. We have about 45 degrees, maybe 44. It's a pretty chilly start to the morning, but we should get up to 60 degrees today. We have November the 4th, 2025, 6:22 in the a.m. I'm taking advantage of the time change. Start a little earlier here. Here's, we got some remnants of the Halloween decoration. Another news, I'm sure people will bring up Dick Cheney, the former vice president of the United States under the second Bush, has passed away. He was in government for decades. He goes all the way back to the Nixon administration, just like Rumsfeld. But he was like the youngest chief of staff there under Gerald Ford, I think. And Dick Cheney, the father of Liz Cheney, has passed away. Most Americans like me remember him for his post 9/11 leadership and the Iraq War, which I was very much against. And in hindsight, didn't turn out the way they thought, but I'm sure they had America's interest at heart, right? Here's the new construction here on Cleveland Street, south of Fullerton, Lincoln Park, Chicago. We walk through all the time. I'm starting my commute to work here, my walking commute. Look at this nice housing. Yeah, this amazing housing. Of course, those are the twin sisters. Two of the three buildings I know of in this area that survived the Great Chicago Fire. The other one being Policeman Bellinger's house, which was similar to this house. It was a little different. It's on Hudson Street. We film it all the time. This was probably built in the 1870s, kind of a workman's cottage, and then these other more substantial buildings were built in the 1880s, 1890s. And there's an historic district, the Mid-North Historic District. Look at the weather vanes here. Hey, good morning. How you doing there? Eric, how you doing there? Wes, Michael, Rodriguez, Stephanie, Tim, Eminem, yeah, Krista. Yes, Emma, ASMR, we saw you there at the beginning. Thanks for being on earlier. Danny, yeah. Danny, are you a fan of Nixon? That's okay. Yeah. Gerd. Who's Gerd? Dick Cheney. Is that who you call Dick Cheney? Yeah, new construction. There's a lot of new construction in Lincoln Park. Isn't that amazing? It's not just, that's the former Cynical site that used to be a Catholic retreat. Their order of nuns ran it. It was called the Cynical. It was a 10-story modernist building and some other brick buildings they tore down. They sold it. It's now being built. There's some single-family residential. This is Belden Street. We're taking a right on Belden. Hey, the bloody hands here. And there's new construction at Lincoln and Armitage. 4-story buildings going up there where there was a 1-story CVS they tore down. They built 3 stories of housing above what appears to be another brand new construction storefront there on the corner, holds the corner. Of course, we're going to go by the casino construction this morning, which is on River North. That's across from the old Montgomery Wards there. That's pretty substantial. A giant hotel like a 20-story hotel with a huge casino. Just what we need, more gambling in this country. You can gamble on elections. You can gamble on the next word that comes out of my mouth, the president's mouth. You can gamble on everything that moves here. But hey, we'll head to work here on Belden Street. We got some nice fall. Hey, even the ivy's starting to change there. Look at the shrubbery. Hey, these trees have lost their leaves. So now, isn't it amazing how all throughout October it was looking pretty green, and now all of a sudden we get to November and it's like you flip a switch and all the leaves fall off the trees at the same time, and you're in winter, just like flipping a switch here. France, how you doing there? Bonjour, Sab Sab, how you doing there? Sab Sab. Yeah, Tim, Connor, Adri. So we'll see if anybody has some fond memories of Dick Cheney there. I'm joking. Of course, I will say this. I'll say something positive about Dick Cheney. I know everybody's going to get on me for being too much of a lib here. He had the courage late in his life to support his daughter Liz Cheney as she was for prosecuting the people in January the 6th attack on the Capitol. Look at the heat Liz Cheney has taken from her own party because they profiles and courage. They stood against the will of their party and had the courage on the 1-year anniversary of the January 6th there to stand with the Democrats, and Dick Cheney supported his daughter Liz Cheney, and she was the only I know of. They were talking about it this morning on the Talking Head shows, and I'm sure he was trying to he was thinking about his legacy and his daughter's legacy. Here's Belden, and the Cheneys paid a huge price for that, just like the Bushes paid a huge price. Notice how MAGA world, they don't like the Bushes, they don't like Cheney because of the foreign involvement, nation building, all these they greet us as victors and all these promises that were made. And it was, they had the thought, I'm sure their motives were patriotism. If I was trying to make that decision after the Iraq War, weapons of mass deception and whatever, they did the best they could. That's what I'm saying. Tell that to the thousands of Iraqis that lives were forever changed from that war, but or lost, and it's very complex. So, but there's a New York mayor election. Mandambi against Cuomo, and then there's a third-party candidate, Sliwa, and he's the guy that wears the beret. The red maroon beret there, the Guardian Angel founder. But we'll see what the results are. A lot of early voting, a lot of young people voting, early voting. They're shocked that so many young people are voting this early in this election, and they seem to be excited about Mamdani, M-A-M. That's Mamdani. I got to say it right. I'm sure if he wins, he'll become immediately a national figure in politics, because New York's such a important economically and culturally, in the largest city in the United States. Of course, the president of the United States sent an all caps, well, not all, some of it was all caps, some of it was regular paragraph tweet supporting Cuomo, which is interesting. Remember how Cuomo battled Trump famously during COVID over several points. It's very interesting that they're like allies now, but shows you the strangeness of politics. But Trump has threatened to cut off federal funding of New York, the largest city in the United States, which again, cut off your nose to spite your face. Be careful what you wish for. You might drive more people into the arms of socialism by being a true arrogant capitalist. And it's not the capitalism as bad, it's the arrogance of it. It's the greed. It's the power that begets power, money, and greed, and excludes people. It's the exclusion of capitalism. Capitalism excludes people. It makes people not welcome unless you got money to be at the table. And, you know, that's why populists like Mamdambi and Trump thrive in this environment. Trump is a populist as well. Here's Holligans. And Trump has the luxury that his populist base doesn't really expect him to follow through on his economic promises. they you know, as long as they get their social power. That's free. That's the brilliance of the capitalists in charge right now. They've found a way to get people to vote for them without having to actually deliver on their economic promises. This is great. Well, they did deliver on this. They did deliver on the most important thing. They gave a tax cut to the billionaires and the corporations and the richest people. But that's not their populist base. Oh, I shouldn't even point this stuff out. But hey, good morning. Thanks for tuning in here. Welcome to Chicago here. We're on, what is this, Orchard Street? Yeah, Orchard Street. Lincoln Park, Chicago. And I may punt on going to Halsted. We'll eventually get to Halsted. Maybe we'll wait to Armitage. Or maybe we'll wait. See, this is Odds Park. And what we're coming up on here, we'll show you the Dorothy statue. Of course, we showed the Tin Man and the cowardly lions at the other end of the park. We usually don't get over there as much. The scarecrows near the Tin Man, but we'll show Dorothy. Hey, look at this beautiful housing here. This is on Orchard Street, Lincoln Park, Chicago. We're heading to work here on November the 4th, 2025. Is there still a big demonstration plan tomorrow for Washington, D.C.? I'll look into that and we'll talk about it more. Yeah, welcome to heaven there, UK. How you doing there, Graham? That's, yeah. Yeah, the 1%. I know. They gave a tax cut to the 1%, and they wonder why a democratic socialist in New York appeals to young people that are never going to be able to afford a house. Certainly in New York City. Or Manhattan. Even Willie Geist, who's on Morning Joe, he's from a he's a well-known media personality there. Even him, on his multi-six-figure salary, maybe multi-million-dollar salary that he gets, he says he wonders how he's going to be able to afford to live in New York City. And this is a guy that's on TV. Here's Dorothy and Toto. Dorothy and Toto, welcome to Oz Park within Lincoln Park. The Lincoln Park High School is right over there. We can go right by it if we want. I'll probably head over to Halsted here. And Philadelphia, how you doing there, Frederick? Yeah, the back column. We filmed the back column. I don't really get over there. The back column's in the West Loop or west of the river. It's not too far west. It's still kind of downtown. Yeah, there was an artist that... What is that? Is that building is the Social Security Administration building? There's a government building there, and they commissioned a public work of art back in the I don't know, late 20th century, and it's a bat column. It looks like a giant baseball bat, but the artist, we filmed, I think he has a German name. We filmed the artist there, or the little plaque. I got a rerun, but it's a while back. We haven't been over there. You know, it's such a... The reason I like going over there is there's a memorial to the Haymarket. The Haymarket on one street over on Des Plaines. There's a Haymarket memorial to the labor rights struggle in Chicago, and we filmed that as well. But besides that, there's not, you know, I don't go over there. It's kind of a weird area of the River West Loop, whatever it is. Yeah, I talked about New York. I talked about Mirror Lace. Welcome to social media, where even if you talk about something, you know, no matter what I say, people are going to criticize me from both sides or all sides, or no one's going to like what I say, so I'm going to say it anyway. We'll just let the comments fly here. But I'm personally excited by Mondambi. If people would ask me if I lived in New York, I would vote for Mondambi in a heartbeat. But I'm a hippie, left-wing socialist anyway. I've been this way for most of my life. I've never really thought that there would ever be a point where somebody like Bernie Sanders would actually have a chance to win nationally. And certainly the Democratic Party agreed with me, because they didn't let him have a chance. It would be too disruptive to our system and probably create too many enemies. Same with Mondambi. It's interesting at the mayoral elected position instead of governor or senator or president. It might be more interesting to see what the mayors can do. But of course, the president has threatened to cut off all federal funding to New York City. We'll have another Ford to New York City drop dead moment. It'll be Trump to New York City drop dead, which is his city. He grew up in the boroughs of New York. Donald Trump's a New Yorker, so he's going to take this very personally, and he doesn't spend much time in New York recently because he can afford not to live in New York. So hey, we made it to Halsted. Look at these beautiful, see Glasgott's there. It used to be a grocery, now it's a bar. Glasgott's behind that tow motor on the back of that truck there. This is Halsted Street, a major northwest street that runs throughout the whole city of Chicago, from the far south side all the way to it doesn't go all the way to the north end of the city, but it comes close. And it runs through several significant neighborhoods, goes through Inglewood, Bridgeport, Little Italy, and it goes through West Loop, goes through Lincoln Park, Boys Town. Boys Town is on Halsted, North Halsted there in Lakeview. And Halsted goes all the way down to the southern border of Chicago, down by Blue Island there. This used to be a police station. See, the history of the city is in the building. See how it says police station there? It's no longer a police station, but they use it as a health club. It's a gain strength, give love. I think it's a workout health club place. I think the top, they rent it out. This is the 2100 block of Halsted. Some DePaul University buildings are over there. But we'll go right through Armitage. Armitage has a nice historic district here. Yeah, who's spamming? Thanks, man. Yeah, it's probably too early. I think I've successfully driven away my mods by switching to YouTube, which I don't blame them. I love my mods. I feel bad. I feel responsible and guilty because it's not as fun to be as mod on YouTube as it was on TikTok. But there is hope. I am still posting content to TikTok. I am still posting content to TikTok. I'm doing subscriber-only content, and that's my path forward on TikTok because they kicked me out of the Creator Fund. They will continue to kick me out of the Creator Fund because they changed their terms and conditions. The only way I can remain on TikTok the way I want to run it is to do subscriber-only chats. We'll reward the subscribers on TikTok. $2.99, the lowest price possible. $2.99. I purposely made it the lowest price possible because all that gets you is
Right.
Hey, good morning. How you doing? Thanks for saying. Hey, that's good. All that. See friends and neighbors there. He's just jogging down Halsted here. What that gets you is when I do for special events. Eventually, I'll go live again on TikTok, and we'll only do a subscriber-only chat. So you'll be able to watch if you don't subscribe, and then I'll get all these. Oh, you sold out. You make us pay. No, you can still watch for free. You can watch all my content on YouTube for free. You might have to watch some ads. You're watching free right now. You don't have to give me any gift or anything. There's no paywall. The only paywall is to be able to comment on TikTok because I hate TikTok now. They have driven me away from their platform. I'm doing it to punish TikTok, not my subscribers, because, they monetize TikTok. Why can't I monetize my content? They're making money off of selling advertising. They won't give me a path to monetize my content. And that's what capitalism has brought us. All you people that love capitalists, look how the social media companies, the capitalists that sit at the top of these social media companies, how they squelch free speech And they're terrified. People like Peter Thiel are terrified that the populist socialists will come for their money, and we will. Not that we're personally taking on. They got money. They got money. They got plenty of money. They got more money for several lifetimes. It's too much power and money to influence elections. And it's ruining our democracy. That's my only point. And I don't want it to go to me. I'd rather it go to the people that need SNAP benefits, people in USA, people throughout the world that need our money, because America has a lot of money. It makes a lot of money off the world. If you don't agree with that statement, what are the tariffs about? The tariffs are about extracting money from the rest of the world. So take that. Circular logic. Here, Armitage and Halstead. Welcome to Chicago. Here we're heading to work here on a Tuesday, November the 4th, 2025. How you doing here? We got 6:42 in the a.m. Look at these buildings here. It says Seton Eastern there. Look at that. Here's the 8 bus. Oh, we missed the bus. So here's a Schlitz sign. This is not a Schlitz Tide House. It may have been at one time, but they don't have the Schlitz logo, the Tide House logo. But we film many Schlitz Tide House. They got the Schlitz sign here. So this is right at Halstead and Armitage, Lincoln Park, Chicago. We're heading to work here. How you doing there? Hey, Pasta Palazzo. There you go. Look at the detail on that building. Look at that cornice. Hey, they don't make them like that anymore. Look at that. It's like Louis Sullivan ornamentation. Armitage has a lot of beautiful buildings. If you go over there, you can connect with the brown and purple line stops. See, it has a lot of window bays like this and turrets. Nice storefronts. There's a lot of good restaurants around here. We'll go by Alinea. Alinea is one of the Michelin 5-star rating, whatever. You have like 14 course meals, and they only take like 10 people at a time. You sit at the chef's table, and you may have to make reservations like months in advance. There's the summer house. You feel like you're in Santa Monica, right here on Halstead. Doug, how you doing? Dougie Fresh? Naya Papaya. You haven't been getting the notifications? Yeah, I can't help with that. We've always had these problems where there's the notifications. Talk to YouTube. You know, am I doing something wrong? You know, Naya Papaya, you know as much as anybody, I keep a pretty regular schedule, at least weekdays. I don't think you really need notifications once if I'm working, because I'm usually streaming walking to work in the morning from 6:30 till 8. Lunchtime from noon to 1, after 5 o'clock. But I know the notifications help. I appreciate that you got the notifications set up. I want to notify you. I appreciate it. Thanks for checking out. Here's a go sign. Look at the Daily News, the Chicago Daily News. That used to be a newspaper as big as the Tribune or the Sun-Times. And they got bought out in the 1970s, the Chicago Daily News. Riverside Plaza, next to Ogilvy, is their building, just like the Tribune was the building for the Chicago Tribune, for the newspaper. That's how big newspapers were at one time. They were the social media companies of that era. Newspapers. Yeah, Dick Cheney. I talked about it earlier. Good. No, thanks. Oh, see, I missed all these side conversations. Okay, good. Thanks. Now it makes sense. Thanks, Naya Papaya. Yeah, we talked about Dick Cheney passed away. I know I started early. Because I started earlier, and I'll cover it again. See, it shows you most of the time. Thanks for the good background information. Naya Papaya, you're great. And everybody else. We talked about the passing of Dick Cheney. I actually talked about it for about several minutes. You might have missed it there. We'll talk about it again. Sad to report that Dick Cheney, the former president of the United States, passed away. He's the father of Liz Cheney, and he's most known for being the vice president under George W. Bush, the son of George H.W. Bush, and the Iraq War. He's associated with the response to 9/11, the attacks on the World Trade Center there, and the response to the Afghanistan and Iraq wars. He held much more power than many vice presidents had, because George Bush delegated power to him, because George Bush II ran the White House more like a CEO. He, you know, as much as I criticized Bush II for the Iraq War, in his defense, and compared to more recent presidents, he did delegate authority and trust smarter people around him, which included Dick Cheney, or people that were more experienced than him. And that was, but it led to Dick Cheney making some assumptions that got us into trouble too. But you know, that's the nature of power and money, or nature of power and, you know, decision making in Washington. They had to do something, so they did something, and history plays out the way history plays out. But yeah, Dick Cheney passed away. Thanks for the good info there. Thanks for letting me know. Sometimes I miss important things. I did catch that this morning. I guess overnight Dick Cheney passed away. He had heart problems for years, and even when he was vice president. And so I commend him for, he was such a tough guy, tough SOB. He lasted this long. Yeah, Wes Green, I agree. And as much as, you know, it's amazing how hindsight and perspective of time changes your view. At one time, I loathed Dick Cheney as much as I dislike the current president, and that's just my opinion. I know a lot of people tuning in, he's your guy, that's great. I tolerate him, he's the president of the United States, and, you know, long live the king there. But that's a joke. And as far as his legacy, I give him credit that he supported his daughter Liz Cheney when she supported the police officers that were killed in the January 6th and the investigation. And look at the personal political price that Liz Cheney has paid for her profile and courage going against her party and the groupthink of the party. So many other Republicans agreed with Liz Cheney and Dick Cheney and the representative from Illinois that paid political price for prosecuting the January 6th bipartisanly. And so we'll see if the Republican Party gives him as much honor as they gave Charlie Kirk or other Republican presidents, like when George Bush I passed away during Trump's first term. You remember that? And then Trump really didn't want to go to the funeral because he really didn't like the Bushes, but he went anyway and kind of slept through it. Here's Willow and Halstead. Willow and Halstead, Capri Pizza. We're heading down. We'll go by the Steppenwolf Theater. Look at these beautiful storefronts on Halstead here. Look, this is F. Neeson. F. Neeson's name's on many of these buildings. F. Neeson's name's on some of the buildings further north there. And there you see in the cornice there, these nice Italianate storefronts on Halstead. And I think this is Alinea. I think this is the restaurant I was talking about, the Michelin 5-star, 6-star rated, whatever it is. We got Boca here. These are some high-end restaurants here in Lincoln Park. Of course, Charlie Trotter's was around here. You ever heard of Charlie Trotter's? There's Charlie Trotter's Way. And here it is. This is called, see, they don't even have a name on it. This is Alinea. This is the restaurant, 1723 North Halstead here, Alinea. Am I saying it right? I can't afford to go there. Here's, I would love to. I got 14-course meals. Here's, I wouldn't want to belong to a club that would have someone like me as a member. Here's Trattoria Gianni. This is an Italian restaurant. They got the outdoor seating here right on Halstead here. And here's the Steppenwolf Theater. Steppenwolf Theater is a dramatic theater here in Chicago. It's been here for decades. It wasn't always here. The original three founders, including Gary Sinise, who was Lieutenant Dan on Forrest Gump. He was one of the founders. Many Chicago actors, people that you've seen on Frasier, and, you know, what's up with Virginia Woolf, or What's Eating Virginia Woolf, and all these, you know, Herman Melville type plays have gone through here. And including John Malkovich. John Malkovich has gone through here. And he's mainly from New York, but he's helped train some people here with his method. And Melbourne, Australia, JS, how you doing there? Tim, Mia, Chris, thanks for tuning in here. We're on Halsted. See, they added this. They added a new space here on the side of the theater. And there's the Steppenwolf Theater. Hey, there's the Brown Line heading north to Kimball. There's the Brown Line on the elevated CTA tracks. Hey, the CTA just received a new funding source there. They're raising taxes. I know it's controversial, but it's going to supposedly raise $1.5 billion to save the CTA since we can't rely on the federal government anymore. Here's the Royal George Theater. Look at that! Look at that! What does that mean? Can you read the message on the wall there? Here's the Royal George Theater. And we fought against King George III. That was the king that went mad to win our independence. And it only took us 250 years when, just like the ancient Israelites, we said, we want a king. We still want a king. It wasn't that bad. We could trust him. We could trust his family. Well, let's just make a whole aristocracy. Let's crown him Caesar, and his son's already named Baron, so it's perfect. You don't have to rename his kid. He just renamed his name title there, and you can buy his cryptocurrency. Here, welcome to Chicago. Here is Halsted Street. We just went by the Steppenwolf Theater. We got We got November the 4th, 2025. And we're mourning the loss of Dick Cheney, a Vice President of the United States, under George W. Bush II, the George Bush President, the son. And his daughter is Liz Cheney. And he has a surviving family there. Thanks, everybody, for your concerns and condolences to Shauna. Shauna's been going through a rough time there. Her sister passed away. And that has to be quite a harrowing experience for anybody who had a close sibling like that pass away. Too young, you know. And here's the Apple Store. This is the Apple Store on North and Halsted here. So here we'll cross the street here. We'll see if we see another train going by. CB2. This is a nice building. We'll see if we can show this building here. And we'll show the Apple Store. Design within reach. They got a bunch of stores here. This area's been very commercialized since the end. It should be a lot more industrial. Read Chuck de Los Santos' book there, Once Upon a Time in the neighborhood, about the Sheffield neighborhood. This area used to be all bombed out, and Cabrini Green used to be down here. We talk about it. Here's the Apple Store. But hey, look at this beautiful building. Fay and Company. Look at this beautiful brick building here. And there used to be a CTA stop here. They removed the stop when they consolidated the stop. It was a short stop, so it wasn't long enough for the longer trains. And they probably in the 50s and 60s, when they removed a lot of train stations, there was a train station there. It used to be historically. So here we'll cross the street here. This is North Avenue at Halsted. This is the Apple Store. This is the second Apple Store in Chicago. The first one was further north on Michigan Avenue, and then they built the one by the river, and then this one was already up. And here, if we walk over here, I'll show you. There's the Brown Line heading into the loop. So watch. We could see it there. We can see the train there. And then we got this beautiful building here, corner of North and Halsted. This is still Lincoln Park, and there's the train coming around over there. Look how, so it's going there. That's the same train. There's the back, but there's the front of it, and it wraps around this building. Look at this beautiful scene here. Thanks for tuning in here. Welcome to Chicago here. We got November the 4th, election day for New York City and so many other places. There's a lot of state races, and maybe the government shutdown can end once we get past this election. Let's see here. So here, North and Clybourne. This is the North and Clybourne stop on the Red Line. So there is a Red Line subway stop here. It's below the ground. That's when they removed this station, probably at the same time that they were extending the Red Line into the subway tunnel. And that was completed in the 1940s or 50s. And then they built this station. This station didn't always used to be open. Back when Cabrini Green was strong and this area was much more marginal, it was too dangerous. they couldn't secure it, and so they didn't even use the station. The train would go straight through there. Can you believe that? And not use a subway station because it was too dangerous. And everybody that talks, they say, "Oh, Chicago's so dangerous," which is true. Chicago, the crime's too high. We should not tolerate this much crime in a major U.S. city. I agree, but it used to be worse, and that's what people don't understand. It was so bad they couldn't even use that subway station at one point. And people, I know Sliva is, running for mayor of New York. He's a founding member of the Guardian Angels. I remember when the Guardian Angels used to patrol that station in the 90s because they just reopened it and people were afraid to use it. So the Guardian Angels would protect people there, and people trusted the Guardian Angels because they were a volunteer group, like a good gang that would help people out and fight the bad gangs and just show a presence that someone else was watching, just like the people blowing the whistles and helping people out here with ICE. Look at that amazing view you get to the One Chicago Tower. So here's Halstead. We'll start heading down. This is Clybourne. Clybourne runs at an angle. We'll get some nice views. They call this the New City. They got the big box commercial there. There's the Purple Line heading north to Evanston there. How you doing there? Thanks for tuning in there. Hey, Tim, see, the Angels helped your brother on the Green Line. That's good, see? You used to see, Wes knows what I'm talking about. Tim knows what I'm talking about. Yeah, see, they weren't just in New York City. They were in Chicago, too. We're talking about the Guardian Angels. And Sliva, S-L-I-V-A, he's running for mayor of New York against Cuomo and Mamdani there. Yeah, thank you. That's good. So yeah, like all cities, we get stereotyped. We get stereotyped by the worst things that happen here, and there is a lot of bad things that happen here. But there's a lot of good things that happen. There's a lot of good people that just go to work, go to school, are trying to do the best they can, just like everybody else. And life goes on, And that's what I'm doing. I'm just heading to work here. And we just filmed the changing of the seasons. I posted that we got the window displays there at Macy's, Marshall Fields there. We filmed them in day and night or day. And we went up to the Walnut Room last week. I guess they got the Christmas tree up there. Yeah, Washington, that's good. Darren, Washington. Louisiana is tuning in. That's great. Hey, Louisiana, that's great. I very much want to go to New Orleans before Mardi Gras this year. I know I talked about it last year. We'll see if we make it happen this year. I might not stay for Fat Tuesday, but we might go there the weekend before, the week before that, get some of those neighborhood parades where people climb up on ladders to catch the bees and stuff. New Orleans is such a beautiful city. And Louisiana is much bigger, the state that surrounds it up to Shreveport. And you ever been to Natchitoches? I know there's Nacogdoches in Texas, which is probably the more famous of the two Nacogdoches, but the one in Louisiana, they pronounce it the French way, Natchitoches. Am I saying it right? It looks like Nacogdoches, but it's Natchitoches. And that's a beautiful city as well. In Cajun country there, or further north, it's actually out of Cajun country. Cajun country is kind of south of there, but you go down to Houma. But that's such a beautiful little city there in Louisiana, up towards between Shreveport and Alexandria. Louisiana is a nice state. I've taken the Amtrak down there many times. Go to Ponchatoula. I used to have a friend that lived in Ponchatoula, Louisiana, right above Lake Pontchartrain, right where the swamps start. He would say, yeah, you could go by his backyard, you could go for miles. There were no roads. It was where the roads ended, And the amount of wildlife that came out of there. But hey, welcome to Chicago. Here we're heading down Clybourne. The Red Line subway runs underneath us. I'm heading to work here. We got November the 4th, 2025. We got 7 o'clock on the dot. And we got about 45 degrees, a little chilly start to the morning, but we should get above 60. It should be just a little warmer today. We had the sunrise there. The sun's rising earlier with the time change. And that's why I probably started so early today. Yeah, Dick Cheney passed away. We've been talking about that. Talking about the New York mayor race. And we'll see what happens here. So I call this the backside of Old Town. You see these empty lots. So this stuff was here when Cabrini Green was here. at least the tall towers. And this used to be the northernmost part of the green portion of the Cabrini Green. See, there's St. Michael's Church in Old Town. We go by through there, usually on our walks home. There's the John Hancock, 875 North Michigan. There's the new housing on Wells. This points straight towards the One Chicago Tower. There's the Sears Tower. You can barely see it through the trees. They call this the Noble School. I think it's a charter school now. It used to have a different name. This school was here when Cabrini Green was here, and it's still a high school, I think. We'll go by the church that you could see it in Candyman, the early 1990s horror movie Candyman, which was set in the former Cabrini Green. Of course, Good Times was filmed in Cabrini Green. You see, that was the 70s American sitcom there. And then underneath here, the Red Line subway connects to State Street. There's the Sears Tower. You call it the Willis Tower, Sears Tower in Chicago. There it is. It's about 2.5 miles south of us. We're about a mile from the John Hancock as the crow flies. And here's this church. There used to be a nice mural here, but they took the mural off the church, which I miss the mural there. Yeah, Baton Rouge is nice too. Baton Rouge has the nice state capitol there. That's where Huey Long was murdered on the steps of the amazing skyscraper-like state house for the state of Louisiana there at Baton Rouge. Hey, your mom's from Louisiana. Naya Papaya. See, we're all connected there. Look at that. Isn't that great? Naya Papaya. Thanks for tuning in there. Yeah, a lot of, well, because the Central Railroad, you know, why was the black migration that came up from Mississippi and Louisiana to Chicago? It was because the railroads went north to south, Memphis through Mississippi, the Delta of Mississippi. That's where we get the Delta blues, Muddy Waters, and Louis Armstrong hopped the train to Chicago, and then he went to New York, you know. Where's Louis Armstrong from? New Orleans, you know. It's just amazing, you know, these connections and how the cities are connected. And here's yeah, look at that skyline there, the Sears Tower. There, you can hear the Red Line. This is where we saw that car that looked like it was rear-ended. That's the Red Line subway there heading through. There's that church you can see in the Candyman there. This is the former Cabrini Green area of Chicago. And there's still empty lawns here where the green portion, the big high-rise towers. There was a building there, they tore it down. There was a building there a year ago when I was live streaming. We got to go back to my footage. We can still see it. It was like a health clinic, but it's gone now. So there's a Target, there's a police station, and a fire station there. We'll go ahead and cross. This is Larrabee. This is Larrabee and Clybourne. We're kind of the backside of Old Town. You see this? They put that on that building there. You go to Baton Rouge. Yeah, if I could make enough money from TikTok and YouTube to live stream full time, yes, I'll go to Baton Rouge, but I got a day job. TikTok doesn't pay the bills. YouTube doesn't pay the bills. I don't expect you to pay the bills, so you'll have to wait for me to do Baton Rouge. There's so many places I want to go. I got a list a mile long of just places in Chicago I need to go, not only other states. But here, gotta go to work. What a bummer. Here's Old Town. See, there's a bike memorial. Some tragically a bike rider lost their life there. That's a bike memorial. Anytime you see a white bike like this, we saw them on Milwaukee Avenue several times there, and that's why there's bike lanes here now. And there are people that use them. It's just so early in the morning, and we saw 1 or 2 people using them. They're not that crowded. Here, if you just joined, we're on Clybourne Street heading into Chicago. We got 705. Yeah. Tennessee, that's good. Yeah, a lot of people from Tennessee and Chicago. I agree. So yes, the same connection there. Yeah. We've walked through Goose Island a few times. There's not much to see on Goose Island. Now I'm waiting. They're buildings. They're planning to build some new. Of course, here's this word: luxury, which means it's not really gentrification because they're not really displacing anybody, because what they're displacing was a Greyhound bus maintenance terminal that is going away because Greyhound, they might even remove the bus station in Chicago. But they want to build some new luxury housing high rises at the southern tip of Goose Island. But besides that, Goose Island, they have at the north end, they got the turning basin, they got that they got that job incubator place there. I think it's the Wrigley's or something. And there's a lot of food service distribution warehouses. There's some industrial stuff still on Goose Island. Now, there's the Goose Island Brewery. Now, if you want to go to the Goose Island Brewery, it's in the West Loop. In the West Loop, we've gone to that. And north of the United Center, there's a microbrew of Goose Island. Of course, it takes its name from Goose Island, which William Ogden, the first mayor of Chicago, created that island. It was a man-made island because he dredged a canal around a bend in the river, which created the island, so he could sell more industrial riverfront frontage to his land that he owned. And that's how Goose Island was formed. The North Branch used to have these little, it was much smaller and narrower in the old days before they dredged it and made it navigable for barges. And actually, they reversed the flow of it as well. It flows out of Evanston and goes south. It doesn't go to doesn't go to Lake Michigan. The North Branch flows into the South Branch. It goes out the Illinois. Isn't that amazing? Illinois River. But they used to be like geese that they used to land on these islands. There was an old Irish neighborhood called Kildobbin. Am I saying that right? It was like a shanty town that kind of grew up there. And then it became this neighborhood called Little Hell. Anybody remember Little Hell? Like, you know, members of... It makes sense now. I never understood how Dean O'Banion, who was Irish and ran a flower shop, Schofields, there in the north side, you know, he was rivals with Al Capone. And I never understood how, like, Vincent Drucci, who was Italian, and Jaime Weiss, who was Polish, how they ended up in the north side gang. Well, they grew up in Little Hell. They grew up in this immigrant, you know, it was like Hell's Kitchen in Manhattan. It was this immigrant tenement neighborhood they tore down to build Cabrini Green and all this stuff, and because it didn't have good plumbing and it was nasty houses and stuff, it just you know, it was old because it was this old shanty town, a poor like vice district, and that's where people would get the Mickey Finns dropped in their drink. And that happened on the south side too, near the Everly Club, where they had the brothels and the red light districts. Chicago had red light districts at one time, just like most New Orleans had red light districts at one time. That's what Storyville is, you know. Yeah, double tap the screen if you like this content. All you got to do is double tap there. It gives me a thumbs up. I appreciate it. It allows more people to find this content. And thanks for tuning in here. You don't have to keep tapping the screen like TikTok. But here you can see too the One Chicago Tower. We'll head straight towards that. And we might... 7:09, so we got time. We'll check out the progress on the casino here. I'll work this in at least once a week. We'll make a point to try to walk over towards the casino construction site to see progress there. So it's 45 degrees. We got 45 degrees. You see how people are wearing jackets there? That's Fahrenheit. And we should get up to 60, 61 or 62 today. It was pretty pleasant yesterday. We got to about 59, but it was sunny. It was a beautiful, clear sky. Check out the rerun there from yesterday, how clear the sky was at lunchtime with the blues, but it clouded up. Now we got high, thin clouds here. We just crossed. This is Division Street. This used to be the heart of Cabrini Green. It's all gone now. They replaced it with this housing. Some of this is mixed, affordable and market rate. And they're building some new housing here. We'll check it out here. We'll go by the Wayman Church here. Hubert's tuning in. D. Michael, yeah. How's it going there, Hubert? 8:10 in Toledo. Yeah, we got 7:10 in Chicago, so we're an hour behind Toledo. We're in the Central Time Zone, and we're mourning the loss of Dick Cheney, former Vice President of the United States there, Father Liz Cheney, and we're keeping an eye on the New York mayoral race there, Mendami against Cuomo and Sliva. I can't pronounce anything right. Do the best we can here. So hey, they bend all the signs here, Hudson and Elm. There's a really good view of the Chicago skyline here. Grandmother's Corner, you lived over here, Cabrini Green. Yeah, look how much this has changed in the last 15 years here. Here, Hudson and Elm. And I'll just show you this view, and then we'll head over past the Wayman Church. Dr. Martin Luther King gave a speech, one of 3 speeches he gave in Chicago when he lived in Chicago in the late 60s, 66, 67. He lived in Chicago on the west side. Here's the view of Chicago skyline there. There's the John Hancock, the One Chicago Tower. That's the Michigan Avenue skyline. And this is looking towards the Loop. There's the Sears Tower, the Willis Tower behind the new stuff at Wolf Point there. And then that's where we're headed. We're going down south of the river there. We're going to Lake in Michigan eventually, but we'll walk by the casino site first here. We got 7:12 in the AM. Yeah, it's changed a lot. Yeah, the time change always messes with my mind too. You know, I was sitting there getting ready this morning, and then I saw the sun was starting to get bright, and I looked at it said 5:30, and I'm like, how can with the time change? But it's because it would be 6:30, and yeah, it gets. You noticed last night when I started live streaming after 5. It was already dark. It was already dark after 5. The sun just sets at like 4:50 now. I think by December 21st. The official sunset, the shortest day for Chicago, the sun sets at 4:20 in the afternoon. Now, if you go to Canada or Alaska, sometimes they only have a few hours of daylight, and if you go above the Arctic Circle, they get the twilight. It just the sun goes below the horizon, doesn't get completely dark, but it looks like night, and the stars come out during the middle of the day. Here's the Wayman Church. Here's the Wayman Church. Here we're at Elm and Cleveland. They just restored this more or less. They gutted the inside. It's going to be adaptively reused as housing. They're going to put 7 housing units. This was a church. Originally it was a Swedish church, then it became an African Methodist Episcopal. It was called the Wayman's Church, and originally it was called the Swedish Baptist Church. There you can see the writing on there, but they're building new housing. South of there was a parking lot here. It was always had pressure for development because of the views. And this is where Dan Charles Davis generally was killed in 1992. That horrible, he was holding his mother's hand, and 2 rival snipers were taking pot shots at each other from the tops of the buildings in Cabrini Green, and they missed and hit the little kid holding his mother's hands. One of the most tragic events that, illustrated the failings of how the public housing was failing the people that lived there. It failed Dan Charles Davis. He just had the poor fortune to grow up here. Here's Jenner Academy for the Arts Elementary School. And the Ogden Owls here. But here, look at this new housing. So I think some of this will be affordable. Some of it will be market rate. And just checking out the construction progress. Again, we're in Chicago. This is Hobie and Cleveland Street. We're with the former Cabrini Green. They're building new housing. It took them 15 years for them to finally start rebuilding this area. And some of the other stuff is, happened sooner, like that stuff. Yeah, it's changed. Your son was raised in public housing. There you go. See, and there's nothing wrong with it. There shouldn't be any stigma with it. I know that's America. People, people are like, it shouldn't matter, but people do define themselves by where they live, where they grew up, what kind of car they drive, how expensive their housing is, so we still have a desperate need for affordable housing in the city because so much was lost over, the recent decades here when they took down Robert Taylor Homes, they took down Stateway Gardens and Cabrini Green and Henry Horner Homes on the west side. All those public housing developments had problems. The housing was aging. They didn't reinvest in it. They were not serving the residents. So a lot of the community spread out to the inner suburbs, other areas of Chicago. And it also dispersed the gang affiliations and led to a lot of rivalries and turf battles, you know. And I don't know much about that. I shouldn't even bring it up because I know we'll get some weird comments here. Here's, right here, look at this amazing view to the skyline. See, there's still, I've walked down that street. I got to rerun. There's still one street where one side of the street, there's still people that live there. Those are the former Francis Xavier Cabrini portion of Cabrini Green. The other side's condemned and fenced off, but we walked down there. Over 1,000 people have liked that video. Over tens of thousands of people have seen it. So thanks for watching that. Here, we'll head down there and show it to you. Yeah, the cheapest places weren't the greatest, but they were better than the alternative. At least it was an option. At least there was an option. And look at this. See, that was always the juxtaposition that one of the most notorious, impoverished, crime-ridden public housing developments in the United States, known as Cabrini Green. People outside of Chicago know about it, just like people outside Chicago know about O Block, which is Parkway Gardens, which is privately managed. It's a different situation. But they would know about Pruitt-Igoe in St. Louis and Cabrini Green in Chicago. And they were so close to the downtown that you could have these amazing views from the public housing to the skyline, which otherwise would be like penthouse apartments, but it was subsidized public housing. You could go to watch the old Candyman movie. You could see. And then these low-scale things were built earlier. They were built after World War I when there was a great need for housing. And these fared better. Well, not these. These are condemned and some of the windows are boarded up. But these people still live in there and you can still walk down that street. A lot of times the police will be parked at either end. I asked the gentleman who was living there or working there, I said, why are the police always there? He goes, I don't know. Because I know he knows why. And it's the nanny state here. Here's Oak and Cambridge. Yeah, Cabrini Green was in Good Times was a sitcom in the 70s that was set there. I don't think it was filmed there. It just kind of used it for the setting. And then Candyman, the first Candyman movie, extensively you can see. That's probably the best time capsule where you can see what the housing looked like at that time. And that was around the time Dantrell Davis was tragically killed. So here we're at Larrabee and is this Hobie? No, we're a block south here. This is a different street. I think this is Oak Street. And yeah, this might be Oak Street. So Oak Street at this end is a lot different than Oak Street just a half a mile that way, which is all the high-end fashion shops. You could go this end of Oak Street and, 20 years ago you would have been, you wouldn't have made it. But here's, yeah, this development's under pressure for redevelopment. You see that. They built all this stuff. There's a lot of housing where the former Montgomery wards used to be. If you just joined, we're in Chicago. We're heading to work here. I'm a little out of my way here. We got 719. Peter, thanks for the memories there. So the Chicago Bulls Stadium's on the west side. The United Center, we get over there every once in a while. I don't get to the west side, admittedly, that often. It's west of the West Loop. It's east of Garfield Park. You can take the Green Line. There's a new stop there, Damon stop on the Green Line. You can also take, get off at Ashland and walk either way. But the United Center is on the west side of Chicago there, and that's where the Chicago Blackhawks play. And they want to build more housing over there as well. Jerry Reinsdorf got approval from the city to build some high-rise housing over there, so we'll see if that goes through. The city needs affordable housing. Everything being built is luxury apartments, which is the problem. There's too much, and there's still demand for that, so the one thing capitalism can't provide is lots of affordable housing. That's what we need, and people wonder why they can't understand why people are interested in Mandambi's candidacy in New York City, the Democratic Socialist. He's not a communist. He's a Democratic Socialist. He believes in the U.S. Constitution. There's a big difference, But there, Unicorn World, Loyola and the boys there. They got some clothes here for kids. This is on Larrabee. There, Chicago, Illinois here. But we'll see what happens in the New York mayoral race here. Cuomo and Sliva. Yeah, we get a bad rap. Nobody likes Chicago. Mostly, it's you know, national politicians love to use Chicago as an example of, you know, look at the bad people in Chicago. They elected a liberal, woke, black mayor. You know, they hated Lori Lightfoot. She was not only black and a woman, she was lesbian, which, you know, of course, a lot of the country's not going to understand that. And her partner was white. Oh, they love that. Yeah, you know, that right away, people are just not going to listen to anything she says just based upon that. Isn't it tragic that how we all, you know, but I guess the same goes for a lot of people on the left. Don't give people on the right a chance by the way they choose to live their life as well. And that's understandable both ways. But the one thing that New York City, Chicago, and Los Angeles all have in common is the president hates the mayors. And actually, the president probably wanted Eric Adams to remain in office. He was trying to help him out. Very strange. It's interesting. The president's supporting Cuomo too, because Cuomo and the president battled famously during the COVID era. It's funny that now they're allies. Here, Betty Chicago date night cooking classes. We go by here. Betty Chicago, you can check it out. She has a huge presence on social media. Betty Chicago, give you recipes there. You can do date night cooking. Here's the former Montgomery Ward's. The Montgomery Ward's mail order catalog. This used to be the distribution warehouse. And there's offices and housing on the other side. There's a rooftop terrace. There's housing. See how they added balconies over there? They're cutting down the weeds here. We'll cross the street here if we can. Look how much traffic's on Larrabee here. There, they're turning here. So good, thank you. Good. We'll head through here. So let's check out the construction of the new casino here. They call this 600 Chicago, I think. See, here's the name, the tech firms that are in here. And it smells like 2-cycle gas there. They're using the gas with the oil in it for the weed whips there. All the Michaels. Steve, thanks for tuning in from England. How you doing there? Yeah, the president's threatened to cut off funding for New York City. I saw that. Yeah. Here, we'll head through. Well, let's go through. It's over this way. So, you know, more people just run into the arms of socialism, you know. All these people are becoming socialists because they can't afford housing. Well, let's cut off federal funding and make them poorer, and then they'll like capitalism. No. As they're having gold gilded ballroom ball galas, they're doing like the Great Gatsby there, you know. So here we need to find the door to get down. Actually, I think it's over here. So is it here? No, that's the office to get in there. We don't want to go that way. We want to go this way. So you see this building here? This is Yamasaki. Yamasaki's the architect. He's the same architect that did the World Trade Center, Twin Towers in New York City, the ones that were destroyed in 9/11. But he did this just before. Here's what we're looking for, the Aliu Spa here. I always miss this because I usually come out the other way. So hey, welcome. We're inside the former health spa down here called ALLYU, and this connects to the riverfront esplanade underneath the 600 North Chicago development here, the former Montgomery Ward's headquarters. The mail order catalog, and there's a lot of housing and offices now. An amazing adaptive reuse project that's been pretty successful here. There it is. Here's the health club there. Mary Ward, yeah, Mary Ward. Was that the wife of Montgomery there? Thanks for pointing that out there. Yeah. here we go. So they're going to replace the Chicago Avenue Bridge. This is a temporary bridge. There you see, right? All right. This is this is Goose Island. Someone before was asking about Goose Island. This is the southern tip of Goose Island. You see, there's the Kendall College. That's a culinary college. If you like the bear. Hey, Daniel Sullivan, thanks for tuning in from Ireland. How you doing there? Welcome to Chicago. So this is the southern tip of Goose Island. Of course, we have a microbrew called Goose Island. You see that big mound of dirt? They want to build several high-rise residential towers there, which would look nice, especially if they do a little bridge there and they do the water taxi. You see how they, that's the new casino site. Oh, there is a water taxi there. Is the water taxi heading back up this way? The water taxi used to go up to the northern tip of Goose Island. There was a station by North Avenue, but I don't think they've been using that. But I see the water taxi was up here. Here's the, we'll get a better view of it once we go behind this bridge house. We'll go behind the gears. This used to be a basket drawbridge. You see how it's a temporary single span bridge that doesn't lift now. And eventually they'll replace this. And I don't know if it's going to lift or not. I don't know if it has to do with the casino. But it's Chicago Avenue. This is the North Branch Chicago River. There's Goose Island right there. And we'll go behind here. We got 7:27 in the AM. How you doing here? See the gears? This is the behind the bridge house here, or the bridge abutments here. There's the counterweight underneath. Aisha's doing it in there, yeah. Your father and uncle worked at Montgomery Ward's. Hey, Grandma's Corner. See, look, you know a lot about this neighborhood. You know about Cabrini Green. You know about Montgomery Ward's, and your family is connected to all these places. Isn't that great? Glad you're seeing this. Thanks for hitting that. Thanks everybody for hitting the thumbs up there, liking this, because it allows more people to see this content, and that's exactly what we want. See, we're underneath. This used to be where they would unload materials and stuff. And they opened it up here so you can get views of the river. And this is the new Bally's Casino site in Chicago. It's south of Chicago Avenue. It's east of Halstead. It's west of the North Branch Chicago River, and it's north of Grand Avenue. And here it is here. Pretty massive. I think this is going to be the casino side. I think this is going to be the hotel. You see that there? That's going to be the hotel. So we got more new construction here in Chicago. This is what we need, more gambling, right? Look at these cranes. So it's taking shape pretty fast. They want to open this next year. I don't think they'll have it open until 2027, but we'll see. And there you can see the Metro coming in. So, there's not many casinos in the city of Chicago. There's a temporary Bally's Casino now at the, in the River North there, where the Medina Temple Auditorium used to be, across from Uno's and Due's on Ohio and, Wabash. Ricketts has a sports book. The owner of the Cubs has a sports book in Wrigley Field where you can bet on sports games. There's a lot of sports books around the city now, but there's really not. This will be the only permanent casino that I know of. Chicago's ringed by casinos. Many of the suburbs like Joliet, Aurora, Elgin, Northwest Indiana, Gary, Hammond, out to Michigan City, even Southwest Michigan has a Potawatomi casino, as does Wisconsin, has many casinos. So Chicago's ringed by casinos anyway, and there's casinos all across the nation. I always wonder what's the saturation point of casinos. But as I said, as I joke, and there's some truth to all jokes, is why is this being built in Chicago? Why Chicago finally, after so many years of resisting casino, allowing casinos? Because they're going to tax the hell out of this. They're going to tax everything they possibly can, including the hotel, amusements, entertainment district, vice district, whatever else grows up here. Are you saying gambling is not a vice? Extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice. Who said that? Nah, beautiful city. Hopefully it's getting better here. But just like New York, we got an affordability issue. So positive, negatives, everything. But here, you just joined. This is the North Branch Chicago River. We're heading to work here. We're on this Eventually they want to extend this to connect with the Riverwalk that we walk on in the loop there, but it's not, doesn't connect well. This is the new Bally's permanent casino. This is going to be the hotel, North Branch, Chicago River. We got 7:31 in the a.m. here. We got about 45 degrees in Chicago, Illinois. And we're going to head towards these buildings here. And yeah, let's head up this way. We usually don't go up this ramp. We'll ramp up here. Yeah, beautiful city there. Thanks everybody for tuning in there. Bulls versus 76ers. Hey Joe, you got the internet there. Go to the search engine and type in Bulls game against 76ers. It'll tell you the time, because either you got to look it up or I got to look it up. So thanks for I know you don't intend to treat me like a chat box. I do talk a lot, but most of my information's wrong. So use the internet there. You can find out the game time, what network it's going to be on. Yeah, the Bulls are playing again there. Bulls are season started. The Blackhawks. The Bears won big against the Bengals there. Late fourth quarter comeback. Very exciting game. We'll head. This is Erie Street. Erie Street dead ends here. Well, it doesn't dead end. There's a little roundabout. There used to be a bridge that went across here, but they took it out. So here we'll head past. Here's the Erie Cafe. Look at the Erie Cafe. They got a nice neon sign here. This lights up at night. I don't know. I guess this was still open in the summer. They had the outdoor cafe there, which was that. But here's some of the housing here. They call this River North. I guess what they call this. Yeah, I started in Lincoln Park. We walked through the backside of Old Town, Cabrini Green. Now we're in the River North area of Chicago. We're heading to work. I worked on Michigan and Lake there, just on the edge of the loop. This is mostly what I do on YouTube, is we walk to work. Morning, lunchtime, we do a lunchtime walk. And in the evening, we walk home. I may start doing special lives on TikTok for subscribers only. Other people will be able to view it, but you won't be able to comment unless you're a subscriber. If you're a subscriber for the low price of $2.99, this is on TikTok. What do you get for that? You get access to longer reruns without commercials. You can anything that's behind the paywall there of $2.99 on TikTok, you can watch for free on YouTube. I know I'm a bad capitalist. Why would I charge somebody? Because it's on a different platform. Some people don't like YouTube. Some people prefer TikTok. So you can still have the TikTok type experience there. But TikTok has driven me away from their platform because they're greedy, and I don't like how they treat me. So here's because I'm a snowflake. Here's hey, we're back to Kingsbury, Erie and Kingsbury. Well, I said back. This becomes Larrabee, or Larrabee's just like a block over, and so we'll head down Kingsbury. And we'll head towards the Chicago Riverwalk here. We got 7:34. We'll probably walk in over Franklin, and we'll check out the Riverwalk as we head into work here on a Tuesday. What is this? Just ice knuckle driver. Chicago despises you. Isn't that amazing? I'm just reading something that was on the poll there. That's interesting. The people are putting that up. Ontario and Kingsbury here. Welcome to Chicago. How you doing? What a sky. Yeah, I just walked through the former Cabrini Green, so you know, I know you might be scared. I'm not scared. Here's Aaron Montgomery Ward Park. And that's fine to be scared. It's fine. I'm not trying to recommend anybody to visit here, come here, move here, spend any of your money here, stay away. Just watch my reruns if you're interested in this content. People that hate Chicago still tune in, and I'm like, well, why do you watch if you hate this place so much? And they're like, they want validation of proving that how bad it is. And when I don't show it to them, they get angry. They're like, this isn't the real Chicago. I'm like, well, you've already made up your mind what the real Chicago is. I've lived here for 26 years. This is the Chicago I experience. I might be privileged and have a corporate day job, but I still walk here. I don't have a car, you know. I've lived many decades in Chicago without arming myself to the teeth. You know, I'm not wearing flak jackets and body armor. That guy that acts like he's Batman gets a lot of views because he's Batman in Chicago. Oh, it must be tough. Oh, you Batman in Chicago. Yeah. People love that image. I guess I'm the Joker. Here's Kingsbury in Ohio. Kingsbury in Ohio. Welcome to Chicago. We're heading to work here. No parking on Tuesday. So, hey, they're going to clean the streets here. Hey, we got some... there's a dog park over there on the other side of that ramp there. We walked through there before. Yeah, thankfully... Okay, you're not going to like this, though. Over the weekend, the Illinois State Legislature approved 1.5 new funding taxation scheme for the Chicago Transit Authority because the federal government's cutting off federal funding. So they're going to raise taxes on Illinois tollway drivers who go through the toll booth, and they're going to raise Chicago and Cook County sales tax. I have to look into it. I don't think it raises it for the whole state. Maybe it does. That would really anger the whole state because only people in Chicago, and not even everybody in Chicago, use CTA. I do. You know, I'm okay with weighing more taxes because I actually use the CTA, but I know people in the suburbs that use the tollway, they don't use the CTA. That's why they use the tollway, and they're going to be really angry that some of their toll money is going towards Chicago Transit. But it's hoping to help with congestion, you know, so people will take the CTA instead of taking the Eisenhower, the Kennedy, or the Dan Ryan and having traffic jams. You know, it's positive, negatives to everything. But yeah, at least we have some transit. It always can be improved. We don't have a lot of cross transit. New York City has much more transit than we do. We probably got the second most transit out of any American city. LA has really expanded their system recently in the past few decades. And Miami, Florida has expanded theirs. Oh, that dog park there, yeah. Yeah, I must be a gangster. I live in Chicago, I must be a gangster, yeah. You can stereotype me any way you want. I'm a country boy that moved to the city. I'm a transplant. Real native Chicagoans don't accept me either because I didn't grow up here. I wasn't born here. I was born in Indiana. I wasn't born in Illinois or Chicago or Cook County or anything. I was born on the other side of Indiana. But hey, I grew up in the Midwest, stayed in the Midwest. I didn't move to California or New York like so many of my college friends did after college. And then some of them came back. Some of them came back to the Midwest. It's great. Come on back. Because they found cheaper housing in Chicago than they had in California or New York City. You know, and so positive, negatives, everything. Here, this big blank wall is the East Bank Club. There's a big giant health club here, and we'll cross the street here. Look at this housing, River North, Chicago, Illinois. We're on Kingsbury. Hey, David, how you doing there? Yeah, congrats to the LA Dodgers there. And thanks for tuning in from California there. Yeah, what a good World Series that was. That was amazing. Game 7, extra innings. Came down to the last out. Game could have went either way. What a great World Series there. Amber, how you doing there? Sandra, yeah. Chicago loves you there. That's good. Yeah, this city at least makes an attempt to clean up some of the graffiti. They don't clean up all the graffiti. Depends on if there's a number you can call if you're a business owner, and they'll come and blast it off. It's a service the city provides, and they do that to stop gang tags. The gangs have symbology with their territory, and so that's why they do it. They allow, sometimes they allow some of the murals under the Metra that aren't gang related. It's more like street art in the graffiti style. And here, let's head over this way. We'll show you these fountains here. This is the East Bank Club. Oprah used to belong to it when she lived here. Hey, Cybertruck. Hey, look at these fountains here, River North. Yeah. Woo. Moving on up, moving on up. Who remembers the Jeffersons? That was a spin-off of Archie Bunker. And then there were spin-offs of the Jeffersons. It's just like Mork and Mindy was a spin-off of Happy Days. Joni Loves Chachi. And then Laverne and Shirley was a spin-off of Happy Days as well, too. Oh, yeah, the graffiti on the rolling stock on the trains. That's why when I go to Pilsen, I like walking down Blue Island, because you walk under there's a railroad yard there, and you can see it from the Pink Line when you come into Pilsen. And if you walk under the street underpasses under the railroad viaducts, there's a lot of street art graffiti, but they also got the rolling stock, boxcars all graffitied up with street art and tags and stuff, and it's amazing to see that there, and then you see it roll throughout the nation. We've been in Spring, Texas when I visit my sister, and I've seen graffiti from New York, famous New York artists rolling there in Texas. It made it all the way to Texas, rolling around the nation on the street art there, or the trains. So hey, this is Orleans Street. The Bear, Mr. Beef is down that way. That's where the inspiration for the Bear. We walked by that many times. We went to the Green Door Tavern, and the Drifter Speakeasy. We'll head up here. Well, this is the Merchandise Mart. We'll cross the Chicago River. Here comes the firefighters. The firefighters are coming this way. Wonder what's going on here. How you doing? There's the real Chicago firefighters there. We saw them filming the Chicago Fire TV show about a week or so ago. We got reruns of that every once in a while we see. And yeah, Blue Island has the fire station that they use for the show there, and they film there sometimes too. Well, this is the Merchandise Mart. Hey, thanks for tuning in. Welcome to Chicago. Here we're going to get some nice views of the Chicago skyline here in one more block, because we'll be by the Chicago River. We'll cross those Basco bridges. Tomorrow they'll probably do a bridge lift. I don't know if I'll have time to film it or not. We'll see how much we can film. They start earlier in the fall. There's the Kinsey Street Bridge. There's where the Dave Matthews bus incident happened. This is Kinsey looking through River North there. There's the Merchandise Mart. 2 blocks long. It's the largest building in the world when it was constructed. You can go through there. They got a bunch of furniture vendors and different things. There's a Holiday Inn hotel on the other side of the top of this building. But here's the gleaming towers of Wolf Point. There's Salesforce Tower. This one's housing. This one's housing. This one's offices. They look the same. But yeah, great history. That's what we talk about, the history. Yeah, Amber, have a good day there. Lion Tribe, thanks for tuning in there. Karen. Missed the USA, that's good. Have a sweet day. Yeah. Yeah, Chicago's not as crowded as New York. And I like that. I like the fact that it's not as crowded. I like it's easier to walk down the street. Chicago's more spread out. And, in the old days, if you see the pictures of how crowded the sidewalks used to be, it was hard to walk around, When I first moved here, Michigan Avenue would get annoyingly crowded. It hasn't been, sometimes in the summer on weekends it gets really crowded, but it's still not the same since the pandemic. We've lost 500,000 commuters that no longer commute downtown because they have the luxury of working from home. And there's so many people that my company interviews, they won't even take a job if they have to work in the office. They only will take jobs where they work from home, and good for them. Here's it'll be nice until there's a recession. Here's so here we're going to get a nice view. Welcome to Chicago. Welcome to Chicago River. Here we are on Franklin Street. Here we got November the 4th, 2025, and there's the Brown Line heading north there on the Wells Street Bridge. Here's the Merchandise Mart. We'll head down and walk along the Riverwalk. We'll walk across the Franklin Street Bridge. These are Baskill bridges. They lift this, like they'll lift these tomorrow. They'll lift all these bridges for the sailboats to let them into their winter dry storage. There's the confluence there. We'll get a good view to the Sears Tower. The purple line stopped there waiting for signals, heading into the loop. Look at that view. Welcome to Chicago. We got about 45 degrees. We're supposed to get up to just above 60 degrees today. Should be sunny. And so at lunchtime, we'll take a walk and we'll show you what the weather looks like then. But it's a little chilly. I am wearing a heavier jacket. I didn't wear a jacket yesterday, and even though it's warmer today, I decided just in case I'd rather be too hot, I can always put it in the backpack if I don't need it this evening. But here we'll look down Franklin Street from Wacker Drive. We'll have a nice view of the Sears Tower, the Willis Tower, whatever you want to call it. And most Chicagoans still call it the Sears Tower because that's what the company that built it. There, William Hale Thompson, the former mayor. There it is. There's the Sears Tower there. Look at Chicago, Illinois. How you doing? 1,400 feet tall, over 1,400 feet tall, over 400 meters tall. Observation decks on the 103rd floor. Hey, Chicago Riverwalk. Okay, let's check it out. 7:47. So we got 13 minutes to get over to Michigan Avenue. You think we can do it? We won't have to cross any streets until we get to Wabash there. Six seven. You want me to say 6'7"? Very, very much of a coincidence you put 6 and a 7th there together. Yeah, you must. Maybe hopefully you can win a bet. Get me to say 6'7". People always say, "Man, how tall are you to see over the crowds there?" I'm like, "I'm 6'7". No, I'm 6'1". Here's I use this extension selfie stick here. Have a good day there, Doreen. There, yeah. Yeah, I'm sweating. I'm sweating for you, Sir Bay. Are you glad I'm sweating? I'm sweating to the oldies. You don't want to work next to me next to work. I smell like a stinky hippie, especially in the summertime. Woo. I do wear deodorant. I do take showers every day. I comb my hair. I wear shoes. Hey, your granddaughters, that's good. Aisha, yeah, Dolores, Bay. Yeah, I do this every day. I've been doing this. I've been doing this walk. I've been riding a bike or taking a walk or sometimes I take a bus. Sometimes I do take this train. Sometimes I take the Brown Line. I've been walking more in the age of live streaming because it motivates me to get up earlier and to do it, take more time. If I don't live stream, I could walk 3 miles in an hour, but when I live stream, it takes longer because I stop and talk and go different routes. We go out of our way to look at stuff like the casino site this morning. And I normally, if I wasn't live streaming, I don't think I would be at this portion of the Riverwalk this early in the morning because I would just walk straight down Michigan Avenue and went to work, you know, or take the train or ride a bike or ride along the lakefront bike path. Nice. Hey, look at these nice views you get from the Chicago Riverwalk here. We got 740. That's the sound of the train going across Wells Street there. We have 7:49 in the AM, about 45 degrees Fahrenheit. What is that? 10 degrees Celsius, 12 degrees. I don't know what it is. They turned off the water fountain here. We're heading in an eastward direction. Yeah, I'm sorry it's not safe where you're at. It's hard, you know. Answer this question here. Okay, I know we're mourning the loss of Dick Cheney there, and New York has the mayor election today. We were talking about that stuff earlier. Number one, the most common comment I often get about the city is about the crime, and I know crime's on everybody's mind. Everybody's anxious. And, you know, even with everything that ICE is doing, everything that the Trump, people still have anxiety about safety. And it's not just in this city, it's people outside throughout the country. And you think that wasn't that part of why people vote. They thought the America gets safer, and maybe statistically it is, but people don't feel safer. People are still have anxiety. They don't feel safe to walk down the street, even in their small communities where they live, or bigger communities like Chicago, certainly. And I tell people, if you don't feel safe, don't come here. Just stay away. You don't have to come here, move here, spend your money here. You can watch my live streams. If you think it's so dangerous, I'll take the risk. I've been walking in the city for 26 years. Maybe I'm desensitized to it. Maybe I'm in denial. Maybe I just can handle the fear better than other people. You know, it is crazy walking down the street. Now, maybe because I'm a man, I know women experience the city different than men. And many times I've been walking down the street and there's been a woman coming the other way, and she'll cross the street because she sees a big creepy man like me. And I know many black men have experienced that too, where people will cross the street and avoid them at night because of fear. You know, and I've experienced that as a white man because I got long hippie hair and I look like a homeless person. I do. You know, I got a scraggly beard. I don't look like a corporate CEO. And that's smart. That's just smart, street smarts of the women. Women experience it. They carry mace and maybe something even more, and you're always scanning the streets. You don't wear headphones at night, so people can't sneak up you. That's what happened to Ernie. He was wearing headphones, and ICE got him from behind because he didn't hear him coming. And you know, it's just, you know, it could be a someone trying to mug you, try to get you, or it could be ICE trying to mug you. And don't think that that's not a type of mugging, because that could be traumatic. Even if you're a U.S. citizen and ICE grabs you from behind and slams you up against the car and demands proof of citizenship, which is happening to U.S. citizens in L.A., Chicago, and Portland and all these other places. U.S. citizens are being slammed to the ground and they have to prove citizenship. And then there's no apology. They give you an obscenity, yell at your kids, and then go off with their long guns. And it's just a very stressful situation that we got real criminals. We thought ICE would go after real criminals. No, they're going after the easy pickings, and then they're causing havoc and chaos in communities. And people are like, oh, we'll just work with ICE. You would not like it if mass people with rental cars from out of state would be driving around where your kids go to school, stalking them either. You wouldn't like it. Trust me. You think you would? Okay. Then come to Chicago and see what it's like. Go out there to Broadview and have fun. Strange times we're living in. Strange times. This is not normal. It's not normal for me. I can't imagine how bad it is for when the Supreme Court says it's legal for ICE to profile people. That can only lead to bad things, especially with potentially people of January 6th. And I don't mean to be spreading propaganda, but no one can deny that this is possible, because we don't know who ICE is. They're not showing their ID. It could be people released from January 6th. It could be a small minority of the people from ICE. They might be here for revenge. You know, here's, you want your police officer out for revenge? You know, here's, hey, welcome to Chicago. Welcome to the Riverwalk here. They're steam clean. Look how, yeah, they a lot of these places where they have eating, they steam clean it daily, you know, for the health inspectors and things like that. This is the tiny cat here, Chicago Riverwalk. I usually don't think steaming in here. That's in Chicago. Yeah, the normal setting for the dryer. So let's talk about Dick Cheney here. So Dick Cheney passed away. He was the vice president for 2 terms under George W. Bush, the son of George Herbert Walker Bush, the father. Dick Cheney served in the first Bush administration too. I don't know what he was part of the cabinet, or he was part of. He goes all the way back to the Ford and Nixon administrations. I think he was the youngest chief of staff for Gerald Ford after he replaced Nixon, after Nixon was resigned from office because of Watergate. Dick Cheney's probably most remembered for his role in the Iraq War and the aftermath of 9/11 when he was vice president, and even the Afghanistan War and all that. I watched the movie about him, and his daughter's Liz Cheney. Now, anybody making fun of me about January 6th, Dick Cheney himself supported his daughter, who, look at the political price she paid for prosecuting those in January 6th. She went against her party. They excommunicated her from the party, and he chose to support his daughter, which, as much as I disagree with many things that Dick Cheney's done over his career, I commend him for that. So I said something positive about Dick Cheney. So screw everybody in the comments that doesn't think I don't try to cover things bipartisanly. I do. I at least make an attempt to. And I acknowledge that I don't expect anybody to agree with my political viewpoints. I expect people to push back in the comments and have the counter argument, because That's what we do. We debate things peaceably, and we don't resort to political violence, even if it's through state-supported violence. Two wrongs don't make a right. Here's State Street. Here's the Marina Towers. I'm just heading to work here. We don't need to have a political roundtable. I know I feel so in a straitjacket. I want to talk about this stuff, but every time I do, I know it leads to bad things, because what works for me doesn't work for you, and what works for you doesn't work for me. And the politicians that work in your jurisdiction might not work in big cities. And the big city mayors certainly wouldn't work in your jurisdiction. You wouldn't like them either. Different strokes for different folks. But we'll see what comes out of the New York mayoral race there. Mamdani against Cuomo, against Sliva. And I look forward to talking about it tomorrow once we have the results. We'll see. I don't know, it might even be so close there's a runoff. I don't know. Yeah, we need to have the discussion. We need to have the debate where we're not just yelling at each other. I know sometimes I lose my cool, and we all go to our echo chamber there, the safety of, but yeah, that's when have Americans ever agreed about anything? And the debate will continue whether we're part of it or not. So the people that are in the arena, the people that are risking their own political careers and livelihoods, and me by simply just stating my private views publicly, you know, I deserve any pushback I get, which is understandable. Here's the Vietnam War Memorial here. We often show the Vietnam War Memorial here on the Riverwalk here. My father was drafted in Vietnam. He thankfully made it out of there mainly because he went in the Air Force. And here's Chicago Remembers. Here's the Vietnam War Memorial here on the Chicago Riverwalk. Right under the Jewelers Building, this beautiful dome building here. And look, they got the waterfall here. They got all the military insignia. So we thank all the military people that have served, people that are serving without getting paid because the government shut down. I know they're trying to, people are donating money to cover their paychecks. And here, the Vietnam War Memorial here. Thanks to everybody that gave your condolences to Shauna. Shauna's dealing with the death of a close family member. And our hearts and thoughts go out to Shauna and her family through this grieving time there. And thanks to everybody that sent her messages, and the mod team for their support of Shauna, our friend and fellow Chicagoan out there in the suburbs. That's great. And I got to meet her in person earlier this summer when they came into Chicago, and that was great. So hey, here's the pigeons. These pigeons often flock here. We've seen these pigeons flock at the intersection of Wacker and Wabash here. I think they must roost in the 17th Church of Christ Scientist, or maybe in that dome there. So here, let's head across here. We got the light. This is Wacker Drive. There's the 17th Church of Christ Scientist. And here's where we came from. So hey, 7:59. We almost made it here. So I'm going to head to work. There's the, I think that's an orange line round in the bend there. And we'll head across the street here. There's the train round in the bend there. There's Wabash. Yeah, thanks, Grandma's Corner there. We'll extend the condolences to Shauna and her family there. Thanks, Christy M, Melissa R. Yeah, you know, the Republicans are welcome because Republicans are part of America. Several of my relatives, close family members, voted for this guy. We gotta be friends, not enemies. We gotta find a way to coexist. I know that's how partisan the divide is in the country, that we don't want to associate, hang out with people with opposing viewpoints. I think that makes things worse, both for the left and the right. The right is guilty of this as well, where they won't even want to associate with people that don't agree with them. And if the left does the same thing, it will lead to civil war, because a house divided against itself cannot stand. And here's Miss Ricky's, as a famous Illinoisan once said, the Virgin Hotels. I've heard a rumor that this might become a Sports Illustrated themed hotel, but I'm not for sure about that. We'll see if anything changes here. But here comes it. I think this is an orange line here around the bend here. We're at Lake and no, Wabash and Lake. No, that's a pink line. That's a pink line heading to Pilsen or to Cermak. It goes over to Cicero. There's a pink line around the bend there. Chicago. So I'm going to sign off. We'll get you to Michigan Avenue. We'll show you that view to the Wrigley building as we cross Michigan Avenue, and then I'll sign off. Have a good Tuesday here from Chicago. Appreciate everybody tuning in. We got 8:01 local time here, and we'll head over to Lake in Michigan here. There's the Prudential building. So we'll be back on at lunchtime. Check out my reruns on YouTube and TikTok, and appreciate it, everybody. We'll see you. Yeah, usually at lunchtime we take a walk through the loop and see things that we didn't see. Like we saw the Bean yesterday twice. We might go by it again today. There's the train around the bend there. Heading towards Michigan Avenue, Lake Street. I'm gonna head to work here. Yeah, it's tough for Shada there. Thanks Aisha for the support there. Thanks Douglas, LS Tracks there. And D Michaels, Christy M, Miss R, Scott G. Thanks everybody. And yeah, this is Michigan Avenue here. We're right across. There's Michigan Avenue. Look at South Millennium Park's all there. See, look at the beautiful Wrigley building here. We'll get it as we cross the street. There's the Prudential building, and this is called Michigan Plaza. I think they used to call this the Illinois Center. Now has their. I saw a guy on top of that yesterday, and right when I shut off, I should have filmed him there. But hey, we'll cross the street here. We'll show the Wrigley building here. There it is. Look at the John Hancock. That's looking north on Michigan Avenue. So hey, have a great Tuesday, everybody. We'll talk to you later from Chicago, and we'll be on at lunchtime there. And thanks, Mod Team. Uzbekistan, thanks for tuning in there. Yeah, Aisha, one golden newbie in there. Albert, Christy, Ambert, I said it wrong. Thatch. Okay, I'm signing off. We'll see you, Dolores. See you, Mia. Talk to you later. Have a great day. We'll talk to you later. Okay, bye.